Okay, we'll start. These are 4 short videos that were made by the Wisconsin Election Commission to help people understand not how to go to the polls and vote so much as how does voting work in Wisconsin? You know, how do we get to the ballots? Are the ballots made? Security, how is voting kept secure? And they were made for teenagers. So there's kids in, you know, young people in here, and I thought they were kind of fun. A fun way to learn about how Wisconsin elections work. And Wisconsin is different from other states in that its voting, its elections processes, the election commission is very distributed over the state. It's not all one silo. The elections commission works with all of the counties, and the counties work with the municipalities in their counties. So all of those local governments work with the state commission to get everything together for voting. So it's very distributed across the state. Other states are much more centralized than Wisconsin. They have a state, and often it is the Secretary of State in the various states that control the voting. Here we have a bipartisan election commission controlling the voting. So that too is kind of unique. And you may read right now about the elections in other states for Secretary of State. And in fact, we have 4 people running in Wisconsin for the Secretary of State position, because in many states that controls the voting. So there are a lot of people who want to be in a position to control the voting. But in Wisconsin still, right now, it is the Nonpartisan Elections Commission that controls all of the processes and procedures, to the extent that the legislature also, of course, controls. If legislation is passed that makes new voting laws, then the election commission has to obey those laws and change their processes to match the law. So this is the latest and greatest. These are new, so they show, but they're kind of a fun way to look at how, kind of the nuts and bolts of how elections come about. So I thought it would be fun to look at them, and we can, any questions that come up, then we'll talk about them. Okay, now let's see, how do I get this going again? Play. Scott, I might need you, because I don't know how to do this. I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm used to a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
And let's make it big screen.
The election process. Now guess what? I'm not an expert, shocking I know, but I can talk to people who are and have some fun learning from young people across the state about how it all works, and I want to share that with you. Let's get started.
Hearing okay?
Wisconsin's elections are noteworthy because they're overseen at the state level, but they depend on municipal clerks in every city, town, and village to run smoothly. It makes Wisconsin's system one of the most decentralized in the country, but it works. So clerks prepare for the election, print ballots, and train poll workers, 20 to 35,000 poll workers, depending on what kind of election it is, but we'll get to what that means in a minute. Anyway, 3,000 polling places across the state make sure that everyone who wants to vote can. And with recent stats showing 77% of Wisconsin's population registered, second only to Minnesota. Come on, Wisconsin, really? A lot of people want to vote. We'll show you what it's all about. Let's take a field trip and learn more. These guys know we're gonna play some games, a little trivia about the Wisconsin election process. Here we go. First question, who are your local election officials? Are they A, executives appointed by members of Congress in their home districts, B, your neighbors, friends, teachers, family from right where you live, or C, highly developed robots?
Hello. I'm gonna go with A.
I'm gonna say A, probably, maybe.
Well, I think it cannot be C, just because highly developed robots aren't really a thing yet. So I'm gonna have to go B.
That is correct.
I'll say B, people from my local community.
Perfect. There are volunteers from all over Wisconsin who sign up to help Wisconsin's elections run smoothly. They're trained to be inspectors, registration officials, and greeters. Spring elections are held every year for offices, but which of these is not an office that holds elections in the spring? Is it A, school board members, B, judges, C, county board members, or D, chancellor of the exchequer?
Oh my gosh. School board members?
I'll be honest, I have very little idea which one's which. I'm gonna just go out on a limb here and say county board members.
Say D, the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Perfect. Do you even know what that is?
I do not.
Great! It's a government position in the UK, so we haven't had to worry about that one for quite a while. And spring elections are called nonpartisan, so that means that the candidates on the ballot don't run with an affiliation like Democrat or Republican or anything else. Okay, not bad, not bad. A couple of questions in there were about election cycles, which we haven't covered, so let's do that now. But again, I'm not an expert, so let's talk to somebody who is about why some elections are in the spring, some are in the fall, and what it all means.
Hi, I'm Jim Verbeck. I'm the Deputy Clerk from the City of Madison. So the main difference between a spring and a fall election is a spring election deals with nonpartisan candidates like a mayor, school board race, judicial races, and a fall election deals with partisan candidates who run on a party. So U.S. Senator, State Senator, President, Vice President. The reason that we don't have all those races in one election is because that would be a lot of races, a lot of things for different voters to digest. So we split them up so that way we have the local stuff in the spring races and the federal and state stuff in the fall races. So one thing to keep in mind when these election cycles approach is that the spring election, you're going to see your local races. For the fall elections, those are more state and federal races, and you're likely to see a lot of ads and hear a lot of phone calls and things related to those elections. But the spring elections, even though you don't hear so much about them on the ads, that's still very important races that decide a lot of your local issues that impact you directly.
Thanks, Jim. That was a lot, but I think I got it. Now, let's talk about how to register. To become a registered voter in Wisconsin, it is pretty easy. To start, you have to be 18, or if you're 17, you can register, but you need to be 18 by election day. You can't be serving any part of a felony conviction, and you can't bet on the outcome of the election, which is weird anyway, so don't do that. Now, for starters, you have to register in the district you live in. If you have a Wisconsin driver's license or a state ID, you can register online at myvote.wi.gov up until 20 days before the election. After that, you can register at your local clerk's office up until 5 p.m. the Friday before the election. Or you can also register at the polling place on election day. So simple, right? Let's head back out and see what else we know about voting in Wisconsin. We're gonna play a game of Wisconsin election charades. So in my hand, I have a couple of pieces of paper, and on the other side of these pieces of paper are a person, place, or thing that has to do with the Wisconsin election process. You're gonna choose a piece of paper, you're gonna put it up to your head so that only your partner can see it, and then they are going to act it out with no words, and you're gonna do your very best to guess what it is. You ready?
I think I'll choose this one. Okay. Writing, paper, folding, putting it into something. A ballot box, a ballot, paper ballot, envelope, mail-in ballot, absentee ballot.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Let's go.
Sorry, I just looked for it. Mark, you ready to go? No words, just actions.
It's a machine. Voting. Voting machine.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Voting. It's a machine. counting box?
I'm gonna help you out, Mark. So this is actually a vote tabulator. Have you heard of this before?
No.
That is okay. You were very, very close though. A vote tabulator is basically just what counts all the ballots on election day. I think we've all learned something today about the Wisconsin election process and voting tabulators. Alright, that's what I got for you today. We're going to get into some details in other videos, but for now, thanks for hanging in there, and hopefully you're coming away a little more confident about voting in Wisconsin. Bye.
Okay. Anything new here that you didn't know? You knew everything? Spring versus fall elections. I never knew that. I never thought about what's the difference, why do we have some stuff in the spring and why do we have some stuff in the fall? Where do you think voting turns out more, spring or fall? Fall. Most people think they have to vote for the bigger stuff and they don't worry about the small stuff. But if you're talking to your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, it's those spring elections that are very key to our democracy. So you really want to get people more involved in voting for their local positions as much as for the partisan elections that happen in the fall. They're just so much more, so important to us locally. I was surprised to hear about how many elections how many of you have done polling work? Been a poll worker or anything like that? You were? Okay. Alex? Yep. Okay, yeah, I have too. I did, and you too?
Yes, I have.
Yes, absolutely. And I also did, voting observer, so that I watched as I was assigned one of the voting places, and I had to sit there and watch everything that happened. And if I noted anything that shouldn't be happening, I had to make sure I wrote that down and report that. And of course, I could call the election commission if I saw anything that concerned me. So, and of course, right now that's an issue, isn't it? Because I know I had to be 6 feet away as an observer. I had to be 6 feet away from the poll workers. I couldn't be right in their faces. And there's concern now that people are going to try to be too much right up where people are actually voting. So it's really important that we understand that there are people there who are really observing, making sure that everything is happening properly. Very good. Okay.
Kathy?
Yes.
I can hear you fine, but I can't hear that really well. And I'd sit up closer except somebody's coming.
Will they look in here, do you think?
I told them I'd sit back here so they come on.
Okay. Well, I can sit and kind of keep an eye on.
No, well, I can hear you fine.
Okay, yeah, I know, this is not quite so, it's kind of blurry. I don't think making it louder will help. What do you think, Scott?
No?
I don't know.
Well, I might annoy everybody too.
Because I think she talks kind of fast.
Yeah.
And that I think does make it difficult. But I'll go over what.
But that's okay.
Okay. Let's move on to video 2.
Hi everyone, it's Carmen, and today it's all about election security in Wisconsin. Voting equipment, cybersecurity, voter ID, it's a whole thing. And we're gonna unpack it and see how it all works. Plus, of course, we're gonna play a game and talk to a voting security expert to help make it all stick. Here we go. Wisconsin's election security starts long before Election Day. All voting systems and equipment used in Wisconsin received federal testing, a lot of testing. Accredited laboratories examine voting machines, software, ballots, everything. Once Wisconsin receives all the federal testing documents, the state approves the voting system, and then we test it again. Clerks in every town and city create a test deck of ballots just before an election and run them to make sure every office, candidate, and referendum in the upcoming election is being counted correctly. then they're ready for the big show. And guess what? After an election, the voting machines are tested again to make sure there were no problems counting ballots. So many tests. Hey, speaking of tests, you know what time it is? Field trip! Fun trivia and games here at Edgewood High School. We're gonna head inside to see how much these students know. I can't get down. Can someone help me down? You ready to find out how much you know about Wisconsin's voting? I'm ready. Let's go. Wisconsin's voter database uses what type of security to restrict access? Is it A, a combination padlock, B, two-factor authentication, or C, cool lasers?
I think B.
That's tough, but I think I'm gonna say B. I'm gonna go with B. I think it's lasers. As cool as that would be, I wish. It's actually the two-factor authentication. It adds another layer of security besides just a password. Now, which of these is not something that the voting system standards test for? Do they not test for A, security, B, functionality, C, privacy, or D, a Wi-Fi connection? D?
D, Wi-Fi.
D, Wi-Fi connection. I'm gonna go with D, Wi-Fi connection. Yes, correct, because these machines are never hooked up to the internet. Great job with the trivia. It looks like you know plenty about how to vote in Wisconsin. All right, I'm getting it now. Real quick, let's talk about physical and cybersecurity. Physical security measures are like tamper-evident seals on voting machines. Kind of how a new bottle of aspirin has this weird child-proof cap. You have to push it down and then twist, and then even when you do get it off, there's another seal on the inside. Look, I'm obviously not the one to talk to about this. Let's call in an expert.
Election security is important because we need to be able to trust the results of the election after election day. The easiest and most obvious way that we keep elections secure in Wisconsin is that everybody votes on a paper ballot. So we always have that paper record of how everybody has cast their vote. I think most voters don't know about our statewide voter registration system and the securities and checks that we use in that system that make sure that only eligible voters are able to vote on election day or cast an absentee ballot. All of the machines that we use on election day are tested prior to the election for accuracy so that we know that they are working that way that they should when voters are casting their ballots on election day. So ballots are tracked so that if you request an absentee ballot, it's going to have a unique tracking number on it so that we know as clerks who is getting that absentee ballot, who is allowed to vote that ballot, and we're able to make sure that nobody is casting more than one ballot. I'm Rachel Rodriguez. I'm the election specialist in Dane County.
Thank you, Rachel. And while we're talking about security, let's not forget one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, valid identification. Now sure, a driver's license or state ID will work as a valid form, but if you really want to get into the specifics of proper documentation... No? Just me? Okay, well, I'm telling you anyway, a military, tribal, Wisconsin University, or college ID will work too, or an identification card petition process, statement of naturalization, or Department of Veterans Affairs ID. In fact, I came up with a game about it. Yeah, that's right, a game about valid forms of identification. Shut up, it's fun, come on. So with voter ID mix-up, our contestants have 30 seconds on the clock to separate all these forms of ID into valid and not valid forms that you can bring to the polling place on election day to vote in Wisconsin. You feel ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go! She is confident. Only 5 seconds in, and she's got plenty placed. Great job, Callie. Let's take a look at how you did. So under valid forms, you had driver's license, military ID, state ID, or passport. These are all correct, but a fingerprint you actually can't use to vote on election day. But I think you might be surprised at how many of these are also valid forms of ID, like a tribal ID, a university or college ID, as long as it's from Wisconsin, or a Department of Veterans Affairs ID, or a certificate of naturalization. Our doctor's note, however, is not a valid form, but all in all, I think she did a pretty good job. Thanks for playing with us, Callie. Thank you. I had a great day of election security security trivia, activities, and fun with these Edgewood high schoolers. I'm gonna head back to the studio now, but thank you all so much for your help and for coming and playing games with me. See? Fun, right? Anyway, that's what I got for you today. Thanks for watching. I hope you're feeling as secure as I am about voting in Wisconsin. See you soon. Bye.
What I liked about this one was knowing how much testing goes into the machines. I think we're led to believe by some of the news we hear that there's a lot of insecurity in the type of in the voting machinery that is used. But in Wisconsin, it is numerous tests that are done to make sure that the machines are accurate. I was curious about the not being hooked up to Wi-Fi, or the internet. Does that sound like something that we've been told? You know, I sort of get the idea from some of the things we're told from people that want us to believe our elections are not secure, that they can be hacked into through the internet. But they can't be. They're not connected at all. So I think we can be actually pretty secure. I don't know. We were talking about security of machines, Betty, and how much they're tested. That really surprised me when I first read about that. Has anybody felt concerned about the voting machines that are used? No? Good. Now, Joanne, when you were involved in voting, and your husband, of course, was in a ballot. Yes, on the balloting. A lot's changed, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like the voter ID.
Yeah.
Yes. But now we're kind of getting used to that, aren't we? To the fact that, yes, we need to bring something to show that we are who we say we are, and that we live at this particular address. So I think that while there are still problems for some people who don't have valid ID, overall they've tried to really make it so that people can have access to IDs. So that, I think, we're gradually getting used to. Well, I'm glad nobody is concerned about security. I'm glad always, too, in Wisconsin, we always have a paper ballot. That if there are problems, that we always have those ballots that can be used to see what's going on. I think that's a good thing. Great, okay, number 3.
Hi everyone, it's me, Carmen. Today's video is all about the nuts and bolts of voting in Wisconsin. Talking about registration and absentee voting. I'll walk you through it and we'll get there together. Let's go. Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you at least 18 years old and a resident of Wisconsin? Are you currently serving any part of a felony sentence? If the answers are yes, and no, then you can register to vote in Wisconsin. Yay! Have you ever registered to vote before? Have you moved since the last election, or have you recently changed your name? Maybe to something cool like Persephone or Drake? Well, if the answers are no, yes, and yes, then you must register or re-register if you plan on voting. Cool, so to recap, that's yes, no, yes, and yes. You know what, let's go over it again with the help of a little quiz. Time for a field trip. I'm here at Bradley Tech today to see what these students know about voting absentee and registering to vote in Wisconsin. Looks like we should go inside. Are you ready to answer some questions?
I am.
Let's go. If you have moved since the last election, do you need to re-register to vote? Is the answer A, only if you've moved from out of state? B, no, the government knows where you live? Or C, yes, even if you move within the same district?
C.
I think C.
I'm gonna go with B.
No, actually they don't track us, so no matter how far you move, you do still need to re-register. Now, if you're 17, but you will turn 18 before Election Day, can you register to vote? Is it A, no, you must be 18 at the time of registration? B, yes, in fact, you can register up to 4 years before an election. Or C, you can register at 17, but you'll need to be 18 when you actually cast your ballot.
I think C, you can be 17 and register.
C again.
I'm gonna go with A. You must be 18.
Well, you must be 18 at the time of election, so you're on the right track there, but the answer is C, because you can register at 17 as long as you will be 18 by the time you cast your vote. You did great. Thanks so much for playing with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's cover voter registration in Wisconsin. Now, if you like government buildings, you can bring yourself and your proof of residence to a municipal clerk before Election Day, or you can mail it in if you got a stamp in an envelope, or just bring it all to your polling place on Election Day and they'll take care of it right there. Or you can do it all at myvote.wi.gov. I'll show you. Right on the home page, you can find the next election, vote absentee, find your polling location, find out who's running, and of course, register or re-register to vote. Note to self and to you all, the window for online registration and mailed registration forms closes 20 days before an election. After that, you can register at the clerk's office or at the polls on Election Day. Easy breezy. Registered voters are ready to head to the polls. But what about people who can't make it to the polling place on Election Day? We got them covered with absentee voting. Registered voters can request a ballot and a local clerk sends a ballot to them at home. Absentee voters need to show the unmarked ballot to a witness. This could be a friend or a family member. Then vote in the presence of a witness, but without the witness seeing how they voted. Seal the ballot in the envelope and sign and date the envelope. Also, the witness has to sign the envelope and provide their address, and then the envelope needs to be mailed by the voter or delivered in person to the voter's municipal clerk. It's sent to the polling place on Election Day, and then the envelope is opened and the voter's name and address is read out loud. The ballot is then certified with a voting number and fed into the voting machine as if the voter were there in person. And absentee voters can check the progress at myvote.wi.gov to see how it's all going. Speaking of going, let's head back out and try some absentee voting knowledge. Now I'm here with Pedro and Cam to play another round of Absentee Challenge. The way this works is you have this board with 10 slots to fill in the steps to absentee voting in Wisconsin. You have the first one where you register to vote, and then the last one where your ballot gets processed and counted. But the rest of them, you have to put in the correct order. So you're gonna race against the clock and each other to find out who knows more about voting in Wisconsin. So your goal is to beat the other person by having the least amount of time on the clock. Here we go. Here are your 8 steps to fill in. I'll be timing you. Are you ready? Set, let me know when you're done, and go.
All set.
Great job, both of you. Let's run through the steps one more time. First, you gotta register to vote. Then your ballot is issued. Once you get it, you can fill in those little bubbles and vote. Then you sign the ballot envelope, your witness signs the envelope, and then you send it to your local clerk. They will log the ballot and store it securely until Election Day. Then they send it off to the polling place where your vote is counted. Now let's see, Pedro, you came in at 1:30, and Cam, you beat him out at 1:25, so congrats on your 5-second victory. But you two are pretty evenly matched. So thanks for playing another round of Absentee Challenge and talking about all the steps to vote absentee in Wisconsin. I had a great time today at Bradley Tech High School chatting with these students about voter registration. And here's our thank you. You guys get a couple gift bags to take home. And we're gonna head back to the studio now. All right, that's the nuts and bolts of voting in Wisconsin. Hopefully you got something out of it. Bye.
The moving has been kind of tricky. I have some people tell me that if you just move your apartment, you need to re-register. Other people tell me, no, you don't need to. So I'm gonna have to try and find out. So because like Joanne, she moved from an independent apartment to assisted living apartment, so her apartment changed. However, other people have told me that they were told no, they didn't have to. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It doesn't seem to make a big difference, and I'm going to try and find out what the case is there. I was curious hearing from you, you know, they really don't teach civics anymore in school, do they? They haven't taught civics in years. Remember, we learned civics and we learned about these things. So kids don't learn about that. It's supposed to be integrated into their other classes, which I'm not sure it does. So the League of Women Voters actually has a very large program where volunteers from the League of Women Voters go into the high schools, and they have connections with large number of high schools in Milwaukee, and they actually register students who will be 18 by the next election. And they provide them a lot of that information that they should be getting. Do you think it is important for students to learn about that we should try and get students involved and young people to learn? Yeah, I agree, because I think they don't learn about it enough. So, is it a problem, Joanne, I'm thinking of you, the fact that now in Wisconsin, absentee ballot must be mailed by the person whose ballot it is. And that can be a problem for some people, isn't it?
It is a problem.
Right.
Because I have to give mine to my lawyer.
Okay.
I don't know if I should do that.
Now you could probably give it to the person who comes from the election commission. They will be coming, Scott, I know you knew those days. There will be a day when, there were 2 days actually, where somebody from the election commission will be on assisted living to help those people make sure their ballots are cast.
Oh, good.
So I think that would be some way to do that. So, but for the rest of you, you do need to take your own ballot down to the mail and put it in the mail. As long as you get it done early enough, right? So, so that you don't have to worry about it getting hung up in the mail. Okay.
The 18th and the 20th.
The 18th. Okay, so November 18th. No, October 18th.
Right.
October 18th
and 20th. It's
and
Tuesday
20th.
and Thursday from 11 to 2:30. They'll be here.
So I'll try and remind you of that before, Joanne.
Oh,
Okay? Yeah, you bet. Okay. And another thing that we're trying to do, right now, those absentee ballots are not counted until the end of the election day. And so that can cause, in a city like Milwaukee, where there are so many absentee ballots that have to be counted, it can cause, real delays then in when the vote counting is done. There have been efforts to try and allow those to be counted earlier on election day. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it would be nice in order to expedite things. So it is being worked on to try and make that happen.
What keeps somebody from voting in person and having ballots in it also?
Actually, there are people that think that they probably will vote absentee ballot and they have their ballot, and then they decide to go to the polls. The updated information that the poll workers have will indicate whether or not a ballot has been sent. And it can be tracked so that the poll worker can know exactly the status of that ballot. And if the person had an absentee ballot, they have to bring it to the poll in order to be able to vote at the poll, so that that absentee ballot can be invalidated. So they do have ways to prevent people from using an absentee ballot and then going to the poll. So that is not allowed, and they do track that so that the poll worker will know that you can send an absentee ballot. You have to present it and have it invalidated. Yep, because that happens. People decide that it's a nice day, I'll go out to the poll rather than the absentee ballot. So, yep, that's counted. That they take care of that kind of security issue. Yes. Yes.
You don't use your absentee ballot. You just have to do it. I didn't know you people on the schedule was and they did not send you an absentee ballot.
Exactly. In Wisconsin, and right, in Wisconsin, if you don't use your absentee ballot, if they don't receive a ballot from you, then they'll assume that you're not interested in voting, and they will not send you another absentee ballot the next time. So even if you don't want to use the ballot, you should at least mail it back so that it can be registered, and you will be then sent a ballot for the next election, so you don't miss out on voting. Good question, Doris. Thank you. Okay.
Probably actually a good point for why we have the paper ballots still then, because you can track that ballot. So,
exactly.
I never thought of what you were talking about right now, but.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, Carmen here, and today I'm going to walk you through the voting process by, walking myself through the voting process. We've set up a polling place so that I can demonstrate all the steps to voting in Wisconsin. So let's get started. Each voter has a specific polling location based on where they live. I'm going to use myvote.wi.gov because it's super easy. I can register if I haven't already. I can find out where I'm going and what's on the ballot. Plus a bunch of other info to get me in a voting kind of mood. Now I just grab my ID and we're gonna head out on a field trip. To check out what it's like voting at a real polling location. Let's go! So now I'm here with Sam, and we're going to find out exactly the steps it takes to vote in Wisconsin. First, can you tell me about yourself and what you do here?
So I'm a municipal clerk, and so in that role, part of my duties are to administer elections at the local level.
I see the sign says start here. Is this the first place that we go?
This is it.
Great. Let's get started then.
The first person that you'll see will be a greeter. Essentially, that person's there to help you make sure you're in the right location, make sure you're in the right ward, and make sure that you're where you need to be.
Now that I know where I am, next step?
Next step.
Great. So, tell me about this station here, Sam.
Sure, so this is the voter registration table. Here in Wisconsin, you can register to vote the day of the election.
Great, well, I've already registered online at myvote.wi.gov. So then am I all good here?
You're good to go.
Perfect, on to the next station. So, where am I now, Sam?
So you're at the poll book table. So this is where you'll state your name and address. You'll show your ID. They'll check your name against the voter rolls. And then they would ask you to sign in one of the books. Essentially, this is to make sure that you vote only once. And then they'll give you a voter number, which you'll then use to get your ballot at the next station.
Great. Thank you. Let's go get our ballot.
All right.
Well, now that I'm here, Sam, how do I get my ballot?
Sure. So you'll just give them your voter number, and then they'll issue you a ballot. They'll both initial your ballot to make sure it's active, and then you'll be ready to vote. And these are just some of the measures that we use for security, integrity, to make sure that your vote is secure.
Great. Well, on to actually voting.
Here we go.
Thank you. So, no, wait, Sam, are we missing something here?
Oh, no, not at all. This is the absentee processing table. So anyone who may have voted ahead of time due to being out of town or maybe indefinitely confined, this is where the ballots are read out loud and processed by our election workers. And then right here behind us, we have our ADA voting station. It allows for accessibility to all Wisconsinites so that they have the ability on election day to cast their ballot.
Great, I love that. Now, where do I fill in my ballot?
You'll be right over here.
Thank you. So this is the voting booth.
It is. It's also where I'm going to leave you. In Wisconsin, it's your right to vote in private and not to have anyone watch you while you cast your ballot. So I'll meet you over at the tabulator when you're done.
Awesome. See you soon then.
See you then. You'll just slide your ballot into the tabulator, and it'll capture and count your votes. All right, and he'll give you your sticker, and you're all done.
Thank you. Thank you so much for helping me out. So we're all done, and thank you so much, Sam, for walking me through the whole process.
It was my pleasure, Carmen, and I hope you're more confident about voting in Wisconsin.
I sure am, and I got a free sticker. So now let's head back to the studio. So that's voting in Wisconsin. Easy to do if you want to. See you soon. Bye.
Don't you love that energy? I thought these were cute videos and really gave us some important information. What do you think? Do you think this is something that is a good thing for people to watch? Maybe.
She was almost too much.
It is interesting how young people really, that's what they like, isn't it? Isn't it? But I thought the information that this gave was very interesting, and it certainly, I think, can help us feel better about the security of voting in Wisconsin. I think it really is an important issue to address. So I know you're not anxious about it at all. Do you know anybody, or do you think that there are people who don't know this information, that do feel that their voting is at risk or their ballots are at risk? Anybody in your family talk about it at all? Nope. Good.
There were a couple of people at least who claimed they voted twice.
You mean here?
No.
No, okay, not here. Yes, I know, and actually there is a person who has been charged.
Yeah.
He did it as a stunt to say it could be done. Well, yeah, I'm sure that if you really want to do it, there's probably ways to do it by using fake names, fake identities, the information. But it's very hard. The number of cases that have actually been identified is very, very low. I mean, it's less than 100, I think, out of millions of votes casted that have been cast. So the likelihood of it can happen. The largest problem with people voting who should not vote is amongst people who have been in prison for felonies. In Wisconsin, they are not eligible to vote until they are what is called off paper. That means that they are through their parole. Once they're through all of that, then they can again register to vote and vote. But there's a lot of people working to try and help felons understand when they can vote. But there are still some that just don't realize that they're unable, that they're not supposed to. So but even that has just been a handful in Wisconsin of felons that voted and weren't supposed to. So it does happen, but it is really, really rare.
Yeah.
I think that the damage is done, though, by those who inflame us to believe that it's insecure without having actual data to present. And so we need to make sure that we are proving that, yes, we're confident about voting.
There's a very interesting article in today's paper
about
the surprising number of deniers who are on ballots running for office. They still think Biden is not president.
Exactly.
It's amazing how many people are out there still denying it.
Well, they're denying it, and in some cases, they know darn well that they're wrong. But politically, for them, it is being used as a way to attract certain voters. So it is a very sad situation, I think. Yeah. But that is why there are deniers who are running for, in states where the Secretary of State is in charge of voting and voting law, they are running for that position specifically so that they can control the voting. And I think that's a very dangerous thing. So it's putting the fox in the hen house. Well, thank you. Yes, I know. Lots of foxes in hen houses these days, isn't there? Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to see you. You're doing a good job.
Thank you. Well, I'm very pro-voting. So it's, I want to make sure people know everything they need to know. But I'll remind you about the date when the person from the Elections Commission is here.
Right.
So that you can take care of making sure you're valid,
I
yeah.
have to change my address again.
Oh.
The place is gonna be.
Yes, you are going to be moving to a new apartment.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So a different address, I think.
Well, it'll have a different apartment number for sure.
Yeah.
And it may be a different address because right now, the water tower building has a different address than,
I forgot the name.
right, and it will now be all under one address. Yes.
I'll see what happens.
Yeah. Thank goodness. Well, that might be before the election, won't it?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting question. Yes, I mean, you're still at East Castle, so you're still in the same place.
It's two addresses.
Right. Yeah. That's a good question for the person that comes on the 18th. We'll ask about that. Yeah. Yeah, I'll remind you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll probably put up a flyer, so put up flyers and remind people. So I'll make sure that Stacy knows that it needs to be posted in assisted living, so that everybody up there knows. Good.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, thanks.